So in this segment, we're going to be discussing Sam Coates doing some analysis. I've seen it on ITV as well, but ITV are more likely to copyright me. But this is about essentially Tory voters who voted, or at least people who voted for the Tories in 2019, who are looking like they are undecided right now, which is a good sign.
OK, this is the group that matters in the general election. Now, first of all, I want to start with something you might recognise. This is where we are at the moment. You can see a huge lead for the Labour Party, 48%, 24% ahead of the Tories, so exactly half of where Labour are at the moment.
You see Reform on 8% is a bit unnerving, but that's going to annoy the Tories even more because this is the most likely group that's going to take votes of them. Reform taking the more kind of right-wing votes off them and the Lib Dems taking the more kind of centre-right votes off them. It's good news.
But it's that figure.
Green polling at 5, though, not bad.
Beth, I want you to concentrate on it. Because if you remember, in the 2019 general election, the Tories got actually 44%. And one of the questions in British politics at the moment is what's happened to all of that vote? This poll tells you all about it. And here it is. It's a huge sample size, by the way, so we've gone into quite a lot of detail.
So one of the things with polls is they don't include the don't know figure. So if we go back just quickly, it doesn't include the don't know amounts. So I think some polling companies omit them and get their figure that way, and some do other like weird things. But I think most of them omit the don't know group, so they get this kind of percentage amount. But yeah, I'm no kind of expert on polls. You'd have to go to Phil for that kind of stuff. But normally they don't. They admit the don't knows.
Huge sample size, by the way. So we've gone into quite a lot of detail. 40% of people who voted Tory in 2019 still would vote Conservative. That's less than half. That's quite a big drop-off rate. That's a problem for the Conservatives. But look at this. A really large number of people who intend to vote but just don't know what they're going to do. Could they go back? We don't know. But that's the group that Tory strategists are focusing on.
You also have dispersal of this group as well. It depends on, are they in swing seats? Because if they're in swing seats, that's an even bigger problem for the Tories because chances are they're not going to win the red wall back. I just cannot see that happening, especially if Reform run in those seats. So I think if these are don't know voters in the South or in the Tory heartlands, they should be pretty concerned. But if these don't know voters are predominantly in the red wall, I don't think they'll be that concerned because these are seats they're not going to win.
12%, the third biggest group, are going to Reform UK. Now, this is absolutely fascinating. Now, it's not necessarily a big household name. 12% is, but it's above the Labour Party. The Reform Party is to the right of the Conservatives, and as I say, it's higher than Labour. It's basically 1 in 10 voting, or switching all the way to the Labour Party. That is when Tory strategists tell you that there aren't a large number of switchers, this data backs that up. Now, this is...
and obviously, there aren't a large amount of switches. It depends. But, like that don't know amount could be key. It also, because they only won some of these seats by, I think, a few hundred votes, especially the ones in and around the red wall. So, that 11% figure shows you that Labour haven't made a massive amount of headway with Tory voters, which doesn't surprise me. Because some of these people are just diehard right-wingers or diehard Tories. They're not going to switch, and that's what kind of perplexes me about some of Labour's strategy, because they've won, through this kind of running as a centre-right party effectively, they've won around 11% of the Tories. This Reform figure should scare the Tories even more.
Is the critical column. Don't knows. What could happen to them? So we've drilled into them. Look at this. Actually, undecided people who voted Tory in 2019, pretty much like Rishi Sunak. There's a net positive.
Pretty much like. I mean, it's a slight favourable. I mean, he's above 0, which is unfavourable. I wouldn't say they really like him that much. I'd say they're slightly positive towards him.
Positive rating for him. But look at this. Keir Starmer.
Oof. That's an oof. That's an oof from me. Like all of these kind of, Starmer's gone out of his way to try and appeal to Tory voters. Especially the ones that switched in 2019, minus 61. That's not slightly unpositive. That's we hate you, dog. Which is not good. But obviously Labour do have a massive polling lead. But if Labour are trying to grab that kind of 24% or that Tory vote, it's not going too well for him.
Starmer, minus 61%. So this group of voters don't like him. So even though a lot of them are not voting at the moment, Tory, again, they don't like him. They do like him. They're also really into immigration. That's their top issue, we found.
shock. They're into immigration. The surprising thing is, I think Labour are polling higher on immigration than the Tories are, which makes sense given the fact that the Tories have created this monster of immigration, this kind of theoretical thing that they say, oh, this is a huge problem. And then when people said, are you going to deal with this huge problem? They said, nah, bro, we can't deal with it. Because they've passed bills which are ineffective. They're just kind of window dressing. They've said they're going to cut. This is something the Tories have said since 2010. They're going to get immigration down to the tens of thousands. They never did because the economy needs it.
And up. So could we see, if we go back to this key growth, could we see some of these people more likely to go to the Conservatives? Quite possibly on the basis that they like the issues and they like the Tory leader. We're going to have to wait and see.
This is quite interesting because obviously we've had by-elections where Labour have won in some of these kind of safer seats, but of course a by-election isn't a general election. That's the key thing to remember, and a poll is just a snapshot on a given time, on a given day of how people feel. I thought the Lib Dems would be doing a lot better, so it's a bit surprising, this poll, but 7% of people saying they would not vote, so that's people just staying home, which again, for a democracy that's not good, but for I want to get the Tories out, this is very good. Vote other party, probably a mix of UKIP and the Lib Dems potentially. I don't know. I doubt they'll vote Green, but all of this kind of outreach to try and get these Tory voters, you're at minus 61% favourability, big man. And also the fact that Labour have clawed around 11% back, and I wouldn't be surprised if those were Red Wall voters who voted Tory for the first time. But anyways, let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe, support the channel on Patreon if you can, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.